Hey everyone, Matt here from Herbal House. In this video we're going to take a look at the Grow Kit Stage 2 and a few of the options that we offer within this kit. A few pros and cons and the main differences between them. So, just to mention what you can expect for delivery to start with. Obviously between the different options you can expect some slightly different packages, but in the gist of things you can expect around 3 boxes, one being the tent, one being the LED, and the remainder of the equipment being the ventilation. Now, for the 6-inch or the 150mm equipment, you can expect a filter in a separate box as well, which would be 4 packages total. But just to show you how plain, brown, and regular these boxes look, there'll only be a delivery label on there to get it to your address nice and safe. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open the equipment up and show you what you can expect. Okay, so first up, what we have here is our 2 top LED choices, one being the 4 Seasons Helios 480X and the other being the 4 Seasons Quantum Par 450 watt. Now both of these are really similar in wattage obviously, 480 watts versus 450 watts. In that regard the key differences are their size, as you can see here. Now the 480X is going to offer a much more even spread across the grow space because in the Stage 2 we feature the 1.2 metre by 1.2 metre by 2 metre tall Eclipse Elite Grow Tent. So this LED is pretty much a match made perfectly for that size tent. Over here, these are definitely the most cost-effective option, being the 450 watt Quantum Par. These are a fantastic light and we rate them to be pretty much a perfect match for a 1.1 style grow space. Now, being in a 1.2 tent, that's still a very good place to be because it's nice to have a little bit of extra space around your plants when you're growing. That's why a lot of people do love this option. Here with the 480X, you're going to expect to have coverage from corner to corner, which means things can be a little bit intense to manage if you've got plants growing up in each corner. No problems there, everyone's on different levels when it comes to experience and what they're looking to achieve, but here we're just detailing the key differences. So of course between these 2 panels is their size, but most importantly they use the same spectrum, which is the Samsung LM301B diodes. Absolutely fantastic in 3000K and 5000K. The only real difference in spectrum here is over here on the 480X, there's a little bit more far red. It goes from 3% to about 6 or 7% far red, which is just a little bit of a boost there or a change, which we're expecting to see in a little bit of a promotion of a higher Emerson effect between the 2. Don't get me wrong, both are fantastic options. So now that we've covered the lights, let's move on to the other accessories. All right, moving on from the LEDs, we have the very important ventilation equipment. Of course, we give you a couple different styles of 100mm, here being the 100mm inline mixed flow Imperial fan and the AC Infinity 100mm fan over here. Now we do also offer the 150mm / 6-inch in the AC Infinity for those who are looking for a little more airflow, but the primary options we have laid out here is between these 2. Now while these fans might look similar, they are quite different animals. The AC Infinity has all the features you could shake a stick at with temperature control, regulation, automation, humidity, data logging, everything you could possibly want from a fan and some more. Over here we have the Mixed Flow Imperial, which has a 2-speed high and low switch, gets the job done, both move air, but they have a wide range of different features. A nice thing about the AC Infinity is it is generally a little bit quieter, basically because you have very precise speed control. So now that we've mentioned the fan options, we of course have the ducting to connect everything together. There is 5 meters of ducting supplied with either fan option you go for, some clamps, and of course a filter. So this is the Imperial filter. This one here we have on display is the 100mm inlet by 500 long. It does have the black sleeve on it at the moment. It does come with a changeable white sleeve. These are all washable pre-filters. And of course you will see that there are hooks for hanging these filters up, which makes them nice and easy. So now that we've covered the fan equipment, we'll just run through all the other accessories included in this kit. Okay, so we've laid out all the accessories for you, and last but not least is the tent. This is the 120/120 Eclipse Elite Grow Tent. Now this is just in its bag. There are poles of course included, but we felt like it was worth having it here on the table just so you don't forget that is included. Now you have 4 19-litre fabric pots. We'll show you in a second what they look like set up with some dirt in them. Your 24-hour mechanical timer so you can regulate your light cycles. We've stuck with mechanical timers because they are reliable, dependable, and tend to last significantly longer than any digitals we have tested. Moving on from that, we have the hydrometer or hygrometer, sorry. That's going to measure your temperature and humidity within the grow tent, min-max functions, just a really easy way to keep an eye on what the temperatures are doing inside or outside of the tent. of course, we have some adjustable hangers. They are light specific, so no matter which light you go for, they are going to come with a set of hangers specific for that light. We just felt it was worth having those there, so you're aware of that. And of course, we have some light reading material here, which is setting up your tent, how to set up the lights, ventilation, and a few things you can consider when putting it together. And of course, a thank you for your support card. So now that we've covered essentially all the equipment, we're going to move on and show you what it's like set up. Okay, so here we have a Grow Kit Stage 2 setup for you to see. What we've done is we've just opened the tent right up so you can see everything set up how we would do it essentially. Now, what I'm going to start with is the tent, which is the 1.2 by 1.2 by 2 meter tall Eclipse Elite Grow Tent. Now, this is featuring the Mylar liner. It has the SBS thick tooth zipper, the shorter stitch length to make sure the zippers stay where they belong. It does have the dual access doors and of course main door in the front, which is a T-door design or a European design. It has a viewing window and all the ports you could possibly need to set the equipment up how you'd like. That's just the canvas. Now, what I will mention is the poles themselves are 19mm steel, so they are going to hold up with a bit of a beating, plus the corner joints are of course not plastic, they are metal, so you can expect this to last a very long time and handle any sort of weight or abuse you plan to put these through. Now, tent canvas covered, don't forget the drip tray. Most important of all, that is there to catch any oopsies or mistakes that you possibly could make and catch or contain any problems you encounter down there. Moving on from the tent itself, we have the AC Infinity fan package. So in this one, we've gone for the 4-inch or 100mm equipment here. For most people, that's probably going to suit them just perfectly. So what we've done is we've just set this up how we would. Don't get me wrong, everyone's got options of how they would like to set this up. There is no restrictions there. Whatever works for you and your plants best, go for it. Now, we've gone with the AC Infinity fan because these are the creme de la creme when it comes to fan equipment. The programmable controller can do everything under the sun that you could possibly imagine a fan could do for you, from scheduling to automatic modes to even data plotting. They are fantastic. Now, of course, the most important part is the odor filtration. Now, that would be relying on the Imperial ventilation filter right here. This is the 500mm long filter. The idea being that these new filters are featuring the finer granules, which are going to help filter more odor and retain a lot of airflow. The hooks fitted to either end of this filter do help set this thing up. It makes it a real breeze when you're not having to fiddle around with as many straps as you used to in the past. Of course, interconnecting all of those components is the ducting. The aluminium black wrap plastic ducting is fantastic. It's malleable and it can take any sort of beating or abuse. The idea being we give you 5 meters, cut it to length and join it how fits you best. Moving on from the ventilation equipment, we've of course got a hygrometer, which we've just sat here on the top of the LED. As you can see, it's at 28.2, which is why we don't necessarily recommend sitting them on top of the LED. It's going to warm up more than it probably needs to and confuse you a little bit there. So I just tuck that out of the way or put it on the tent for registering the air outside of the tent or an ambient air, because if you've got an AC Infinity, that's going to be measuring all your air temperature and humidity within the tent itself. Moving on from there, we have the LED, which is of course the prize of the Grow Kit Stage 2, and in this one we've got the 480X Helios series. Now these are absolute beasts and pretty much designed for corner to corner coverage of a 1.2 by 1.2 grow space, with plenty of intensity to do absolutely anything you could need to. The idea being that these are fitted with a dimmer module, which will step it in 25% increments, so you can set this up to suit any plant or application from seed to harvest, no stress at all. And of course, don't forget the adjustable hangers will allow you to lift that and lower it as easy as it could be. Now, what makes these so good? That would be the Samsung diodes fitted to these, which is in the LM301B variant. These are a world-renowned diode and have been absolutely fantastic to us. Not to forget that Osrams are fitted in there to supplement the 660 and 730. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, the 730 is there to help stimulate a higher emission effect, which should lead to a bigger flowering or fruiting result. Now, the diode spectrum itself is in 3000K and 5000K, which is what the Samsungs are providing, and that comes out at about a 3500K average, which is this beautiful white light, and that is essentially all your plants could need, and it's going to do the job very, very well. Just be sure to not overdo it, because these units are incredibly intense for only 480 watts. So now that we're moving on from the LED itself, we of course have 4 fabric pots. Now those are 19 litres in size. Don't get me wrong, 19 litres is a great place to be for a tent this size. For a lot of people it's going to do the job well. For others, they might find that they want a single large pot or even more smaller pots. Whatever works for you, but we feel when we provide 4 of these, it's a great place to start and really get the tent up and running and find out how the equipment's going to perform for you. So now that we've covered this variation, I feel like it's worth mentioning the Quantum Power 450 watt option. So what we're going to do is change the LED out and show you what that looks like. Okay, so we have swapped in the 450 watt Quantum Power, as you can see here. Now it is quite a bit of a size difference between the Helios option and this, but these Quantum Powers are featuring the Samsung diodes and Meanwhile drivers. Everyone's loving these name brand parts, and of course the Samsung diodes have transitioned over to the Helios range, so they are both fantastic panels. Now what you'll find here is it is a very compact panel and very space efficient for 450 watts. It's a very powerful unit for its size. Now we rate this to be really effective for a 1 meter by 1 meter coverage for an intense flower. Don't get me wrong, if you don't have such high requirements, it's going to fill out the tent perfectly. But for a lot of people, 1 by 1 is right where you want to be in this slightly larger grow space, because it's not good practice to realistically grow up the corners of your grow tent. It's hard to manage and it's bad for airflow reasons. So for this reason, it's worth mentioning that this is still a very effective option for this size grow space if you plan to look after your plants and still have really great access in there. Not saying you can't do that with a Helios, it's just a little more difficult to manage when you're really growing from corner to corner. So back to the panel itself, featuring Samsung diodes of course in 3000K and 5000K, ideally the same spectrum as the Helios range, the main difference being the far red concentration is at 3%, not 6%. That's the key differences there, or at least what you'd see if you were to put a spectroradiometer underneath this thing. Now at 480 watts power, we've done some quick numbers, so if you were to combine that with, let's say, a Imperial inline fan, you're still looking at only about $1.50 a day, give or take a few cents, and realistically you're still around $1.50 between this option or the Helios option or either fan option. It's really not a huge difference because we've given you these numbers to give you a ballpark, because some people might have a lower dimmer setting, of course going to affect the overall wattage, and how they run their fan is going to alter that as well. But at $1.50 a day, it is still really efficient for the kind of results you would expect this equipment to deliver. Now it's worth mentioning air changes here, because swapping from a AC Infinity that we have there to, let's say, the Imperial mixed flow fan, you are looking at about 1 air change every minute, which is not bad of course, but when you go to the AC Infinity of the same size, you're looking at about 2 air changes every minute. Now for those who have this equipment installed in a really hot climate, like a tin shed, and they really need a lot of air movement, the 6-inch or 150mm equipment is going to deliver 4 air changes per minute. So that is quite a considerable step up over this equipment featured here. You can still expect this equipment to perform, even if it is a hot climate, you're just not going to be moving as much air, which is going to be in turn affecting your internal temperatures of the tent. Not a bad thing, it's just situational, so we give you those options to reflect that. So overall, a really compact kit for these sort of results from this sort of equipment. We're really pleased with how these have come together, and the equipment is already proving to be one of the most valuable and efficient on the market. So we're really pleased to see that. And if you have any questions, we'd like you to get in touch with us here at Herbal House. So thanks for watching, and let us know if you need anything else.